Greetings, fellow web-slingers of knowledge, and welcome back to On the Inside. And today, we're unraveling a captivating web of information that's sure to get your spidey senses tingling. So if you haven't already, be sure to swing that subscribe button and tap that notification bell to join our fantastic community of explorers. Now, let's swing into action. Why are there different versions of Across the Spider-Verse? Ever since Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse debuted on digital platforms, fans have experienced déjà vu. Just like eagle-eyed viewers noticed tiny variations between scenes during the film's theatrical run, the digital version contains even more tweaks. Most of these changes enhance existing moments or add new information instead of bloating the already lengthy film. For example, a flashback depicting the moment Gwen Stacy, Haley Steinfeld, was bitten by her universe's spider, Hobie Brown, Daniel Kaluuya. Seeing during his introduction, and less dialogue during Miles Morales, Shameik Moore escaped from the Spider Society headquarters. But why keep changing a supposedly final product mere months after its theatrical debut? A recent interview with the Spider-Verse producing duo Phil Lord and Chris Miller sheds light on why Hollywood's biggest movie about multiverses has multiverses, or multiversions, if you will, of its own. Why is the digital release of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse different? In an interview with Games Radar, producers Phil Lord and Chris Miller revealed that the changes to the digital release of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse served specific purposes. One reason was plain old logistics. Miller cited the film's release schedule, specifically the time needed to translate the movie for international markets. Miller explained, there was an international version that was made almost 2 months before the movie came out because it had to be translated into different languages, and these French censors have to decide what the rating of the movie is in Europe. The team at Sony Pictures Imageworks still had some shots that they felt they could do better for the finished version. Miller added a secondary motive, creative peace of mind. Certain crew members, people in the sound department or on the animation team, were like, "Oh, could we do this instead?" He told Games Radar. Because it's a multiverse movie, it's like there's a multiverse of the movie. That was really the reasoning behind it. It was trying to make the best possible version that everyone was going to be the proudest of. James Cameron and George Lucas have also updated their past projects. One might call the Across the Spider-Verse team adjusting elements post-but an example of perfectionism. That descriptor is typically loaded with negative judgmental connotations, but perfectionism isn't a dirty word if done healthily. Everyone wants to submit their best work regardless of artistic medium or profession. In the film world specifically, Across the Spider-Verse is far from the first movie to be modified by its creatives. James Cameron, a noted perfectionist, adjusted a shot of the night sky in Titanic to be historically accurate for the film's 15th anniversary theatrical re-release. Star Wars creator George Lucas, meanwhile, is famous, or infamous, depending on your perspective, for the multiple updates he made to the original Star Wars trilogy. Many of these revisions were a way for Lucas and his visual effects company Industrial Light and Magic, always experimental pioneers when it comes to cutting-edge technology, to test new systems before Lucas shot The Phantom Menace. For Lucas, who directed Star Wars, A New Hope on a shoestring budget, and with a wing and a prayer, and someone who resisted the restrictive Hollywood studio system, these experiments also provided the chance to get his defining creation right. He told Entertainment Tonight in 1997, "My original motivation in going back into the film and working on it is that films, unlike books or symphonies, are never finished. They are abandoned or yanked away from you. And it's the same thing with fine art. Painters say, 'Oh yeah, I did that 12 years ago, but there's something I don't feel right about it.' There were a lot of things in A New Hope I just wasn't happy with, and when the film came out, everyone said, 'Oh, looks great, you love it,' I said. Well, you know, it's only about 60% of what I wanted it to be. Everybody thought I was nuts." Years before the Star Wars prequels were in active development, Lucas was also a staunch defender of artists' rights. In addition to quitting the Directors Guild of America over a credit sequence, in 1988, the Los Angeles Times reported that Lucas joined other Hollywood names advocating for a congressional bill that would forbid businesses from colorizing black and white films. Under Ted Turner's ownership of the MGM film catalog, classic black and white features like The Maltese Falcon and Miracle on 34th Street had been adapted from black and white into artificial color. Other artists in support of the restriction included Lauren Bacall, Sidney Pollack, and Lucas' frequent collaborator Steven Spielberg. Across the Spider-Verse had behind-the-scenes drama. Unlike Star Wars and Titanic, several factors make Across the Spider-Verse and its variations unique. For one, modifying scenes after the movie's debut raises eyebrows in the wake of employees accusing Lord and Miller of strenuous working conditions, which allegedly included alterations to already approved animated sequences that created a backlog of work across multiple late-stage departments. If Lord and Miller allowed their team to revise something to their satisfaction collaboratively after the fact, that's excellent. But if the Spider-Verse workplace is so perilous that an artist can't produce their best work by the deadline, which 4 anonymous employees claimed was the case on Across the Spider-Verse, that's an unsustainable environment, and another reason to support widespread unionization across the film industry. For another, George Lucas and James Cameron altered their products years down the road. In contrast, Across the Spider-Verse might be the only movie to release different versions in rapid succession. Beginning in June, theaters around the world played at least 2 different cuts, both of which, presumably, included improved sound mixing after audiences cited difficulty hearing Gwen Stacy's opening monologue. The digital edition premiered in August. Because the Spider-Verse saga hinges on the multiverse concept, it stands to reason Across the Spider-Verse is one of the few movies that can get away with such back-to-back timing without major backlash. Naturally, not every fan enjoys the digital version's revisions. This intersection of artistic license, fan response, and perfectionism has no right or wrong answer, only individual preference. Countless creatives long to fix their past work. Technological advancements, changes in opinion, and skill growth all affect how everyone perceives their creations. Some actors, even ones as marvelous as Dame Judi Dench, won't watch their films because they'd overanalyze and critique their performances. One can argue that any creative team should be afforded ultimate freedom, especially for more mutable art and if a situation warrants change. On the flip side, there's also the argument a work should stand as it was at the time of its conclusion. Unlike its box office returns and groundbreaking animation advancements, Across the Spider-Verse isn't breaking the mold here. It just happens to be a movie about multiverses with multiple cuts. All art is subjective. Whichever cut you prefer is your individual opinion, just like making different versions is the opinion and the right of said film's creators. And there you have it. Fellow adventurers, another thrilling dive into the mysteries of our world here on the Inside. I hope you enjoyed our exploration today as much as I did. If you found this video as mesmerizing as a spider's web, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and sling it to your friends who share your love for uncovering the unknown. Now, before we wrap up, remember, just like Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse, life often has multiple versions and perspectives. So stay open to new ideas and keep exploring those multiverses of knowledge. Until our next journey, keep those questions spinning, stay curious, and stay right here with us on the Inside. Catch you in the next web.